Welcome to the Positively Transformational Podcast with Asara and Eden Lovejoy, where we embark on a journey of empowerment, growth, and unshakable positivity. We're beyond thrilled to have you join our transformative community. Visit us at successbyyourcommand.com for more transformational programs. Enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Positively Transformational Podcast. Eden Lovejoy here, tuning in with Asara Lovejoy. Hi, Asara.
Hi, Eden.
And today we're going to talk about courage. We're going to talk about courage and being in the journey and the courage of our life, of our business, of our, all of the pieces of our journey as we go forward. And I know, Asara, you've got some great ideas to kick us off. Why don't you get started?
All right. I've been writing on my new book, Quantum Wealth and Source Mind, and I'm at a chapter where we talk about the hero's trials and tribulations and challenges. And I like to see that in business, that when we make a new decision, the hero always gets a call. So sometimes it's an inner call from a dream, or sometimes it's an outer call where somebody says, I've got a business proposition. And how do you respond? Well, you're always, yeah, go ahead.
And don't you think like that is the entire story of the business leader? That I mean, the old joke is that isn't that the story of the business leader? The old joke is that the entrepreneur is the only person who will quit a 40-hour-a-week job so they can work 80, right? Like there's some inner call that drives us to do something that's different from the norm or the safe route, right? There's that itch, that desire to create or be, implement something bigger and different.
Absolutely. And part of the hero's journey is always to face trials and tribulations. So when a business owner gets that inner call or that outer opportunity, there's going to be trials and tribulations, and you'll have the attractors and detractors. So you'll have somebody say to you, wow, Eden, wow, Jane, wow, Peter, that's just a great idea. I think you should launch into that business immediately. Or you'll have the detractors that say, that sounds really risky. Are you sure you want to invest your money and time and energy? And as the hero, what's required? As the business owner, what's required? As the entrepreneur, what's required is courage. The
Mhm.
courage to check themselves, check the environment, check the conditions, and decide if they're going to launch down the road or not.
Absolutely. I have a little quote on my wall that says, of course, you probably could have had it easier and been more comfortable today than you already are. But remember, you wanted it all. And I think it's that willingness to step out in pursuit of the bigger vision. And it does take courage because it is atypical, right? I think more and more people now are stepping out on their own and moving into coaching and doing those kinds of things. But launching out with, it's jumping without a parachute a little bit and trusting in your own intuition and skills, talents, and abilities. And I mean, I love the archetype of the hero. I like hero stories. I like hero movies. I like hero books, but maybe that's because I have a little bit of hero archetype in me.
Yeah, I honestly think that the business owner is a hero. I made this comment that I had an experience where we were river rafting and you were on the journey as a child, but I was in the river and you were on a rock ready to jump into the water, high rock. And all of a sudden, a swoosh of water had been let out from the dam and just took us away, just took the people in the water away. And it was so overpowering. It was so overwhelming. It was my experience of the power of the universe. This was nature, and this was the power of water. And then I thought, well, if this is water, what about the whole power of the complete cosmos? All of the stars, creation and destruction, and that energy that we are like these little ants. And then I said, no, we're even smaller than ants. We're like a neutrino. You know, a neutrino is just a possibility in a vacuum. And then I said, so if we're that insignificant in the totality of the universe, we're superheroes already, being human and living a human life. We're superheroes already. So we can now take that idea of us being superheroes, living a life, to the actions that we take that seem heroic because they're so out of the normal
Mm.
and
You know,
they're creating something.
yeah, I mean, I love it's a courageous journey simply to be on the planet, right? To be in socially awkward situations, right? To step into anything that's uncertain. I don't know, that to step into the unknown, which can look like a lot of different things, right? Moving to a new town, changing to a new job, over and over and over again in our lives, we're tasked with the responsibility to find that courage, that sense of willingness to step out into the unknown. And I love that it's woven into our DNA simply by the nature of our humanity. That yeah, what a great thought.
Yeah, there's always this impetus to express life. That is the impetus within each of us. And one of the acts of courage is to track what is going on within yourself when you are making this shifts into a new experience. For example, a client that I was coaching started in real estate, and she's been coaching with me for a couple of years. And I kept saying, you just keep having the courage to do what you're doing because her self-confidence wasn't established. She was learning a skill. Now, 2 years later, she's looking at listing $8 million properties. And like, I got it. I know who I am. I am a great real estate agent. And so that's the process that we go through, is to have courage and confidence in ourselves to go through the process of retraining our brain and retraining our emotions when we expand or excel at something and we become greater than what we were in the moment before. Because there's always that challenge of when we excel at something, we have to change our whole system to be able to receive millions and multi-millions of dollars compared to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And or, we have to excel and recreate our body and our mind to be able to accept hundreds of thousands of dollars if we're only making thousands. So it's a process of change that requires courage.
Yeah, and I appreciate you talking about the discomfort. I mean, there have been a couple of times that I've walked through, well, I mean, really through working with you and doing the one command and opening up to a new level or a new layer or a new opportunity, right? Like the next iteration, the next chapter. And sometimes that shift is so significant internally that there's like a reorganization, and it'll feel like weeks even of just like, whoa, I'm not even quite sure what's next now. It's got to integrate and dial in, and that's uncomfortable, right? It's comfortable eh, doing what we do. But if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And if I want to get new things, then I need to do new things. And I have to be open to receive new things. I mean, I think we've talked before. I mean, certainly my experience is people have a wealth or financial set point that is as inherent in your being as the like a body weight set point we talk about, right? There's a point that you always kind of go back to financially until you have an internal shift, and that internal shift is creates a discomfort because oh, all the story that I have about what's right for me to have, be, and do needs to change to support that new experience. And
Yeah.
that takes courage to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and in positively transformational, that's what we're talking about, is the courage to look at that transformation in yourself. And I often say that people in coaching and in the human potential field neglect to include the physical shifts of the biology and the neurology in the brain and the body that take place that as you go along to make significant increases in what the results are that you want. And so those significant increase, like you said, there's a threshold. So how do you move past that threshold? You have to rearrange your belief structure at the unconscious level to open the doorway to the open potential of creating a new idea. Because in there's an infinite supply of new ideas and new revenue and new ways to express your business or your personal life or your relationship. And once you understand the principle that that exists, you can go for it. But if you don't understand that there's an availability of what you want to create is available to you, in the infinite supply of ideas and power and vibration and expression in yourself, then you stay in a small sphere of influence, a small loop. You go through the hamster wheel. You just keep recycling the same things over and over again. You got to get off the wheel and step out. You got to have the courage.
Well, and that's why I love the work that you and I are doing now so much because for years now I've been working with business owners and coming forward in their business and they know they want something different and we implement things that are different. What I've found over the years is sometimes we bump up against the outside edge of the owner's mindset, right? So we've got to open up the mindset to the greater potential in order to be able to truly affect change. And some people can do that easily, and other people, it's a process. But to recognize that our business and our lives are a reflection back to us of our internal map, right? Because I mean, I believe that people are such phenomenal creators. We are absolutely creating everything that we think, believe, that need to have be true for our own lives. So if I'm not getting what I want, I got to change what I'm creating. But yeah, maybe I'm digressing. I think we were talking, so on the hero's journey, when you answer the call and you've said, okay, yes, I'm willing to change, I'm going to pursue the dream. The next is, having that open-mindedness and looking around to see what can contribute to the dream. And I mean, to have the courage to ask for support or resources, to have the courage to do things differently. We move into implementation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in the hero's journey, the implementation could be walking down the road and giving a little old lady a glass of water, and everybody else walks by her and she says, "Oh, I'm a wizard and I'm going to give you a magical pin that now every contract you sign will be in your favor and work out well for you and the person you're contracting with." And those little miracles can be expected if you have the idea that they can be expected, because most thought forms and ideas of work is it's got to be hard, take a lot of time, and you got to sacrifice yourself to make what you want. Now, I have a different opinion. I have the opinion of going into the quantum field using your theta brainwave as the way in which you create the conditions for the success of your business. And that is taking place in another dimension of consciousness. It takes courage to think about creating your business in another dimension of consciousness, one that I've seen the results and the proof of over and over and over again. But in common language and common knowledge, it's not that well known. That's why we want to be positively transformational and address these opportunities of the way in which you can think differently to get the results that you want.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? My internal map is just it can be easy. It can be easy to affect change. It does not have to be difficult, right? I definitely have an internal map of simplification and clarity, and let's just really focus on getting it done, getting to the result that we want. So I know that our strategies tie so closely together. Yours
Yeah.
in the metaphysical or in the theta space, and mine in the practical implementation space. But we are both, I mean, we share that value of let's get to the result, right? And we don't have to make this be hard or cumbersome or difficult. And your example of the glass of water to the hidden wizard, for me, how that translates out of the metaphysical into the practical is having the courage to, take an action that you don't necessarily understand, right? That like, okay, I'm willing to grow, I'm stepping out on this journey, and now I want to, but then I'm drawn to take this action that maybe doesn't make sense or I wouldn't normally have done, but try it, right? To try some new things, try something different because we don't know what it looks like to create that next opportunity necessarily. So we have to trust that internal intuition a bit. A lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have the story of the fireman who um, often talked about his intuition and his gut instinct. He used the example of putting out a big building fire, and he and about four other firemen were there, and he says, "We've got to go right now. We got to get out of here right now." And so they all left. And then 5 minutes later, the floor collapsed where they had been standing.
Mhm. Yep.
So that's the kind of intuition you can use of taking an action right now without understanding why you're doing it, but you know that you need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
And
so
things
yeah, go
open
ahead.
up. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, are we ready for some commands, or do you want, you have, sounds like you have a little bit more to say.
Well, I feel like we want to wrap up the journey, right? So because the third piece, so we have the intuition and we step out, then we practice taking the action that we don't that aren't necessarily logicking through or don't have the experience of. And then there's the integration piece, right?
Okay,
Integration of the whole
incorporation.
incorporating the experience that builds the strength, right? So then and we were yeah, so that fulfillment then, and you were talking about stepping into excellence, right? The fulfillment then is we're practicing, it's uncomfortable. But as we practice, we build some skin on it and we get comfortable and we expand to fill that space because we're integrating the experience and the new ideas and the new thoughts, right? And I mean, I love that it's like an iterative process because then I expand to fill that space and I get comfortable and confident in that space. And then comes the yearning and the idea for what's next.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But and the in the hero's journey, that's called the rite of incorporation, that all of the challenges that you've gone through, you incorporate within yourself. The symbols in mythology is, a dragon's shell around your neck or smoke from the burning of enemy. And so you incorporate it. However, the return trip to home base where you bring your knowledge and experience to others is the ultimate completion of the hero's journey, because we're not just making the journey for ourselves, we're making it for a change for others to be the example and later on the mentor and the leader in that experience.
Oh, that's great. Okay. All right. Now that feels complete. We've come full circle on the complete hero's journey and how we launch out and grow and incorporate and bring our skills back to pass on to the next and then launch out again. And that is the journey of life, right? To continue to be
Exactly.
growing and seeking and changing. I think that's what makes life exciting, fun, and curious.
Exactly. Well, let's do some commands to
Okay.
facilitate that internal change in all of us. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. Feel yourself coming into your body. Feel your body relaxing in the chair. Let the energy express down out through the bottom of your feet, going down, deep, deep down into the earth, making that root connection to the earth support, the validation of the power of who we are walking on the planet. And from that vibration of power of earth, we resonate back up into our heart center and focus on what it is that we wish to discover. What courage are we implementing? What are we discovering? So just think about that in yourself. What is it that you would like to have the courage to step into, to look at, to enjoy, to create in your life? And then just imagine breathing in this gold light directly into your heart with that place of your desire. Breathe it in, hold it, and hold it up to your forehead. Hold it. And then as you exhale, see that light surround you. Shh. Light before me, light behind me, light above me, light below me, light to the right of me, light to the left of me, light within me. Now, in that lightened state, look up underneath your closed eyelids. You're moving your brain into theta as you imagine going out into the universe, going out through the top of your head and traveling out into the sky, out past the atmosphere of Earth, out into the space of the open potential of the quantum field of all that is, where every idea, every thing that's already been exists, and everything that's a potential to exist, it belongs, and push through that up into the white luminosity of all that is. I don't know how I accept courage in my body, in my brain, in the bones that supports me in my choices and decisions. I only know I accept the embodiment of a courageous decision, and it supports me in unexpected ways, and I am fulfilled. I don't know how I am interested in exploring my environment and with courage, with observation, with intention, with creativity. I only know I'm interested to have the courage to step out of comfort zone now and go forward with new ideas, new thoughts, and new feelings. I don't know how, I only know it's so now, and I am fulfilled. And I don't know how I am acting as a master of my own universe, where I choose, I make the choice of the direction of my life now. By my choice, I see the results, and I have the courage to accept the value, the increased income, the increased support from others, the better relationship. I only know I have the courage to make that appear in my life now, and I am fulfilled. Now expand. Just allow yourself to go out, out, out into a greater field of consciousness. Just forget what we commanded and be in the know nothing, just in the space of being. I don't know how. I am open to receive even greater good than I can currently imagine, that serves me and serves in the world in a better way. Now let your eyes relax, bring your energy back down, come back down into your body, and we're going to unwind a DNA with the limiting ideas, thoughts, and fears. Unwind, unwind, unwind the DNA, and we're going to rewind the DNA with a new courage, the new excitement, the new potential, the new trust in your ability to create your life in a wonderful, beautiful, amazing way. Rewind, 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 and let that integrate for a moment.
Woohoo!
What did you notice?
Uh, well, I noticed especially when you said let go of the what we just commanded and just be in the free floating space of all that is. I felt that energy coming in, and I almost physically could feel the expansion of the bubble of the opportunity and potential that is. It was delightful.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Lots of heroes out there, everybody. You're one.
Lots of heroes out there, everybody. It's been such a joy to be here with you today. We look forward to tuning in with you again next month at the Positively Transformational Podcast.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. And remember, transformation is a journey. You're not alone on this path. Connect with us on social media because the Positively Transformational community is all about uplifting one another. Share your thoughts, your aha moments, and even suggest topics you'd love to hear more about. Take care, stay blessed, and keep shining bright. Remember, you can always visit us at successbyyourcommand.com for more information.